Right now on Pure Pop Radio in conversation, I have the great pleasure to speak to an up and coming artist. We don't do that very often, but
Wow.
here's not only an up and coming artist, but today is the first day she's a full time musician. Not doing anything else, just being a musician. So it's pretty fun.
Sounds fun.
And see, she's already laughing. It's good. Stefanie Drexler, who goes by the name Dear Stella, has put out this wonderful EP. Ah, there it is, right there, backwards. So you can read it backwards. The Emit Zones, or I don't know. Anyway, Time Zones is the name of it right here, and it's really good. And Stefanie is my guest today. So Stefanie, welcome all the way from Austria.
Thank you so much for having me on here. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome. You're my first guest from Austria. So that
Wow.
says something. I'm not sure what, but it says. But before we talk about this great EP of yours called Time Zones, I would like to find out a little bit about you. That's what we do here. We find out about the artists. So you're from a little town in Austria, which you told me what it is before we started the interview. And honestly, I already forgot. So it's a small town.
It's a very small town. Yeah, it's fine. You don't even have to remember the name, but yeah, like I told you, you can refer to Graz. Maybe that's people might know Graz from Arnold Schwarzenegger. So that's where I spend like I would say half of my life studying. So
okay, all right.
Let's just say Graz, but I'm not.
Let's just say Graz. There you go. There you go.
For now.
Let's talk about when you started getting interested in music. I mean, when you first started listening to music on the radio, maybe you went to a friend's house, your parents played music in the house. What kinds of things did you start listening to?
Wow. I can't remember like a starting point where I started listening or doing music. I was always obsessed in a way with sounds and singers. So I just remember seeing videos of myself that my parents would record, like childhood videos where I would stand in front of the TV where like some music show was playing. And I would just stand there being like fixating my eyes on that, what was happening in this music show. I think it was like a live festival or something of Austrian traditional pop music. And I was just walking in circles in front of the TV and like being possessed kind of by that music bug. So that's probably the first music infection that I got. But from the age of 6, I took musical lessons, or even earlier, like where you have like kindergarten music. But at the age of 6, I started getting piano lessons, and that's when I really started being doing hands-on music, and yeah, it's
Well,
just part of my life.
Well, what do you think it was about music that attracted you? I mean, some kids play sports; they want to be soccer stars, or they read books and they want to be writers, or they want to be actors. They watch maybe on television or movies, and they say, "Oh, I'd like to be doing that." But you gravitated towards music. What was it about music, do you think, that attracted you?
That's a great question. It's really cool, interesting question. Like I said, I was always very much fascinated by singers and voices and vocal melodies. So that's kind of what captured me, or that's where I really gravitated towards. Like the singer was the point of interest for me. And I remember one time, it sounds probably super weird, but one time I played in my parents' garden outside, and I don't know, I remember that moment so clearly, but I had this thought. I was a big fan of Britney Spears back then. That was kind of like my generation, these were the CDs that I would get or my parents would buy me. So I loved listening to her music. So I had this thought in my parents' garden, like, Britney Spears, I can do that. I want to do that too. I want to be a singer like Britney Spears, and I can do it. I kind of like, I set this challenge for myself. Like when I'm grown up, I want to be this pop singer. Mm-hmm. That has of course changed over the years. Like I'm not like dreaming of that pop icon thing, because there are so many dark sides to that whole business and being a huge pop icon. So of course that's a little different now, but still, like, yeah, the dream of becoming a singer and singing for a living, that definitely, that was the initial spark, and that still keeps me going, I think, to this day. Like, I still want to, yeah, sing.
Okay. All right. I read that you did theater productions and uh, did different kinds of activities before you got started and you went into writing songs. Did you just try out for school productions, or was it community theater, or well, what kind of thing did you do?
For a couple years in my teens, I suddenly had the plan to become a musical theater art, like actor and singer, but I can't act, so I was really bad,
Okay.
and I didn't like it too. I don't know. I don't feel comfortable like playing a role, and dancing was, you know, 50-50, but still the singing part about it. I loved musical theater vocalists like Idina Menzel, for example. She was,
Oh,
I mean, she's amazing. And there are so many great musical theater singers that I looked up to. And that's kind of how I thought, oh, maybe I could do that, you know, like after school, what are you going to do? And there was a school for it. So I tried to prepare to get into that school, like a private college in Vienna. They
oh,
didn't take me.
they
So,
didn't.
which is good because it led me on this path. And but I, at the same time that I was interested in the musical theater world, I also started playing in cover bands and played rock music, and I played the electric guitar, and I sang AC/DC and stuff like that. So it kind of,
ACD. Wait a minute. Whoa. Wait. You went from Britney Spears to ACDC?
I kind of had to. No, it was good. It was fun. It was fun.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's different, but there's some communal aspects to it too. Yeah, I guess.
Well,
Um,
modeling, and if we go into detail there, we're better. Because yeah, you know, Max Martin, Britney Spears. I'm a little, yeah.
yeah. There you go. But you took music to another level, other levels that maybe some people don't go. You started studying it, and you earned a master's degree in popular music research, which brings to mind David Meir, who you also worked with a little
Yeah.
bit on one of the songs. David's like a big time educator now in Sweden.
Oh yeah. He's
But
awesome.
so you got a master's in this. What made you go in that direction, and what did you learn about music in studying that way and getting that master's degree that has helped you move into writing and recording your own music?
So starting out my studies of musicology, because that's what it was in the bachelor's and also in the master's, I think it was a great overview of everything music. So there was ethnomusicology, historic musicology, everything, everything you can imagine, like jazz research, all different kinds, and angles looking at different kinds of music. And I think that was really great, like to get a sense for what's even out there, what can you do as a musician, or if you're interested in music. And the good thing about the masters is that you can really focus on one particular subject of studying. And for me, it was songwriting. And that kind of started when I first went to a songwriters expo with my producer. He said, like, you gotta go, you know, we gotta get your songs in front of people. And so I was like, okay, I've never heard of that. I have no idea what a songwriting expo is and what you do there. And I went there. It was in Colorado, so that was like 4 or 5 years ago. And I had no clue what these people were talking about. Like, what is a publisher? What song? People write songs for other people. Like, it sounds terribly naive, but I was at that point, no one has talked about that either in my classes nor in the industry that I started working in. So that was completely new land for me. And I got super fascinated by that. And I got back home to Austria and was like, I'm going to write my master thesis about songwriters, because no one talks about it in popular music research, and not really. There are a few scholars that are great, like David. He's totally dedicated to that subject. And so I found these people and would get in touch with them and gather all the information I could get in the short time that you're allowed to work on a master's thesis like that. But I learned a lot about what's happening behind the scenes. And that's kind of what I mentioned earlier, like with Max Martin. Or I realized that as a child, I wasn't really obsessed with what Britney did, but what Max Martin, her producer, or other people in her on this team, for example.
Okay.
Did. So that's kind of what shifted, and from that point on, I was just much more interested in songwriting.
Was that your first trip to the United States when you went for that, or had you been there before, a year before?
I think it was my third, I think. So I had been there to record before. So I think it was the second time working with my producer in Utah.
That's very exciting. I mean, if for being so young and jumping right into it to that point, I mean, it's not like, hey, let's go see a movie. Let's jump in the car and drive to the movie theater. You drove to the United States, basically. You came overseas. You came here a couple of times. You were very serious about it. But here's a couple of the interesting things that I found reading up on you a little bit, is that you toured Germany as the opening act for the B-52s. Okay, you got to start at the beginning, because there's a story there. I know it.
It's a little story. Yeah, actually, it was not me opening for the B-52s. And it sounds big if you say I toured Germany. It was for a week, but it was a week touring Germany. Where was that? So that was during my studies in Graz. I met a couple of guys in my covers band that I was playing in, who had their own band. They played originals and recorded original songs, and the guitar player had a studio, and I would do vocals there with him and do some writing and backing vocals on their tracks. So he invited me to join, and it all kind of happened by accident. And so I ended up playing ukulele and singing backing vocals on this band's record, and they had a record deal, and that way they got booked on a tour to open for the B-52s in Germany. And they were like, do you want to join us? It could be fun. We could, just play the ukulele and sing some lines. And I'm like, yes, I would love to do that. And that was a great experience, because I met, of course, the band from the B-52s, and I got to talk to a couple people in that band, and that's kind of when the first contacts to the United States also started. So they were really nice and welcoming. Yeah.
That's pretty exciting, though. I mean, it was only a week. I've never done it. That's pretty good, right? That's pretty good. That's
definitely a life-changing week. Yeah.
Like, what was the name of the band?
Klimstein.
I'm sorry?
Klimstein.
Klimstein, of course. The famous the famous Klimstein. I'm not sure what that means, but okay. And then, you from Britney Spears to the B-52s, you sang AC/DC, and then you recorded harmony vocals for Air Supply. Right? Explain that. Talk about that.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know if I'm allowed to talk about it. I don't even know if the song is out there, or if it's okay. But I'll just share. So I flew out to the United States to record my own music. So that was before the expo. I think half a year before that. So I got really good friends with the producer, and we would hang out at the studio even when I wasn't recording. So when I was there, we'd just hang out and see what other artists he would work with. And so we had a few songs written and recorded together. And one time he said, like, oh, who's coming in to record a new album with me this week, and it's Air Supply. And I'm like, okay, pretty cool. He's like, do you want to hang out? Do you just want to come and watch, and maybe I'll play them your song? And I was like, really? You want to do that? Okay, I'm nervous, but do what you like, and it was a total, like, seriously last minute session job that happened, or like event, because I was already almost on my way to catch the plane when they were like, okay, really? So do you want to do some harmonies on this? And I already wore my jacket. I was ready to be at the door, and they were like, you have 10 minutes. Can you do some harmonies? And that was definitely another extremely life-changing, beautiful moment for me. But yeah.
I'm sure. Look at all the stuff you're packing in here. Okay, so let's see. We have Britney Spears, we have Air Supply, We have AC/DC. I don't know what else is in there, but all sorts of good stuff. And now we're at the point where you're going to record your own songs and do this EP. Now, the EP is under the name Dear Stella, not under your name. Why did you do that? And what's the significance of that name?
Okay, so maybe first why I choose to do that. I don't know, when I started out singing, I was always part of a cover band in a way. So I was, like I think I mentioned earlier, like playing a role was kind of never my thing. I don't know, I wanted to do my own thing and have it more open in a way. So when I decided I'm gonna write my own songs and release my own songs, I wanted to keep it as open as possible and not, I don't know, it sounds weird, but not limit myself to being this person, singer, songwriter, Stefanie Drexler, but to like just have a name that could be a band as well. Because I knew that I would never do it alone. I would never, play all the instruments and do it. Because for me, it's about the collaboration with different people, producers, musicians, as you can see in the city. It's my favorite part. So I wanted to have it like a neutral name that could be a band name too. And I always liked the name Stella, and there's actually a little story to it. My mom, when she was thinking about the name that she would give me, she liked Stella because it's Italian for star, or little star. And I always thought that's super cute, but because it's not very common here in Austria or generally in the German speaking world, she wasn't brave enough to choose it. So I thought, well, then I'll pick it and I'll use it
Okay.
for the music that I do. And yeah.
All right. Well, that makes sense. That's good.
Yeah, the dear part is because I really like old school handwritten letter stuff, like that old fashioned dear someone. So
in the age of the internet, somebody who likes writing letters, I like that. I sometimes wish we could go back to that. I really do. Yeah.
We still can. There's still you can still.
Who knows? After this year, anything's possible. You never know. So you start to put all this together for this EP called Time Zones, and you're working with a bunch of people who the power pop, for lack of a better term, the pop people know well, like Blue and Eric Barrow and Kai Dansberg, who's kind of come onto the scene like a hurricane, basically, and he's got a lot of great material out there. So you wrote with these people, you recorded with these people, and that all immediately attracts the attention of people who like this kind of pop music, catchy, melodic pop music. But were these people that you were already listening to? I mean, did you know Blue's work, his records, and Eric Barrow's records and Kai's records? I mean, did you go to them saying, hey, I'm a big fan of yours, I'd like to work with you with my music? Is that how it happened?
That's generally how it kind of happened. Yeah, I mean, it's different from person to person, of course, like how I met them or how I discovered them. But especially with Blue, that was a name that had popped up everywhere for me. Like, I love Demi Lovato, I love the Jonas Brothers, I love the Disney pop rock, Selena Gomez, that kind of music. It was like my teenage music that I used to listen to, and there was always this name coming up, Blue. Who's that guy? Like, I love these songs. Like, they were all written by the same guy, and he popped up with other people, like Drake Bell, for example, who I loved, like whose music I really loved. And I don't know when that happened, but it was not too long ago that I discovered his own records, like Redhead, for example. Mm-hmm. When I heard that, I was, so that was the moment where, like, oh, okay, that kind of music, that's where I feel at home. Like, that's really what's happening, because it's just amazing. And I just followed Blue on Instagram, and I was, just liking some stuff, and one day he followed me back. And I thought, oh, that's cool. I'm just, let's just make the contact, and I planned to fly out to LA just to meet some other people, and I reached out to him saying like, hey, I'm coming to LA. Would you be up for having coffee with me and chat music? And then he said like, let's do a song together. So I was like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna do everything in my power to make that happen too. And I did, and it was definitely a mind-blowing experience being in LA in the studio with him and Jesse McGinty, who I later found out played on the Licorice Quartet. So
on the Licorice Quartet up, right? So when you met him, you worked on this song with which is the first song on the EP, called Time Machine, and it's an apt way to begin it because it's an incredibly dense piece of art. I mean, it's one of those everything, including the kitchen sink and the other sinks in the house too, kind of thing, with effects and little melody parts and swishes of sound and all sorts of things. Did you, when you met Blue and you said, hey, we're going to work on this song, was this an idea that you already had, or did you two just sort of sit across from each other with instruments and say, let's see what comes of it? How did that song come about?
it was actually a little different. So we started
that figures, okay.
But it's fine. So we started to sending emails back and forth talking about what direction we would go, and I basically didn't say much. He knew that I was like becoming a fan of the power pop and power pop history and everything. So I still am very new to it. So I know maybe the top of the iceberg from what's out there. Right. And he was like, let's do something in the vein of like Tears for Fears, and he sent me that song that it was basically 5 songs in one, and he was like, let's do something ambitious. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna trust you. I'll watch what you're doing, and then I'll just be humble and absorbing what's happening. And actually I went into the studio only on the second day, so Blue and Jesse had already created like the outline of the song, had already recorded a couple of these instruments that are on there. So when I got into the studio, the instrumental track was basically done. It was already there. So they had done this, they had sent me the rough version. I was like, oh wow, okay, so that's what we're gonna do. I was expecting more of a straight pop, like radio pop song, but I was of course like blown away by that. And on the second day we had the task to write a melody to it. So it was like, okay, so the song is pretty much, it's full with, like you said, with all different kinds of stuff. And now we have the job to write a melody and lyrics to it. And I just sat there and was like, oh, this feels like traveling in time. Like this, we're in the 70s now we're in the 90s. I can hear 2000, I can hear the Jonas Brothers in this part, And so yeah, that's how the Time Machine theme kind of came, because yeah.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned all these other artists. The way that I hear the songs on this EP, it's kind of a merging of more contemporary songs that you might hear on a hit radio station, melded with the more, not power pop so much, but pop music, Beatles type of stuff, catchy. It's hard to describe sometimes, but I think it's a merging of the two different kinds of ideas or ideals. The songs, and especially that particular song, Time Machine, it's sort of like for people who miss Jellyfish in the worst way, and for whom the Licorice Quartet is good, but we want more. That's basically what you've done in about 4 minutes, is melded all these things together. And plus there's all of your vocals on there. That sounds to me like that's almost the most fun you had putting that song together, is designing the harmony stacks. And I don't know how many voices are on there, but it's a tremendous job.
I just remember I was very sick the week before I got into the studio. So I had a bad cough the day I had to record the vocals. And I was extremely nervous too, because imagine you're standing there in the vocal booth in front of your hero. And Blue is definitely like a producer, writer, artist, hero for me. So I was already this small, like, even though I'm pretty comfortable behind the mic and I love singing, I do it every day, but that was a completely different scenario. Plus not feeling 100% in the voice. And he was like, let's do this. And there were moments where I couldn't even follow like what he was singing to me, or what he was trying to guide me to, because it was so multi-layered and crazy. But it was definitely the most magical moment. And my favorite moment was, I don't know if Blue's gonna listen to this interview at some point maybe, but he's this cool producer guy, he's very confident and can be intimidating, especially if you haven't worked with him. And my magic moment was in that vocal booth when I started singing the first kind of, the verse. I don't know if you can call it a verse, but the first part, and he hit record, and I just did it. He stopped and he looked at me and he was smiling at me, and he liked it. So that really touched my heart. I was like, oh my gosh, I made it happen. I had that, it was that spark that you're always want to create as a singer, and that you're hoping to create. And to see that happening with that person that you look up to was that was another life-changing.
Well, that's what music is, right? It's magical. I mean, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're in the moment, you're in the moment, you're with a guy who's basically a musical hero of you, and you rise to the occasion. It's just like everything else goes out of your head, and you do it, and there you are. And it's an incredible track. And people who are listening to this, you can hear the song below the interview. It'll be a link to it, and you can hear it. I also wanted to talk about The Last Kiss. That's another good one. It's kind of a mid-tempo ballad about a last kiss signifying the end or a beginning, maybe. You don't really know, of a romance. And this was you and Eric Barreau and Mike Sartini. You each play instruments on it, and sing. And it's a very imaginative production. And in true Jellyfish or Licorice quartet fashion, you have a bicycle bell in there. It's like whatever's around, we can make it work. And the production. I'm sorry.
I just said there's a theme. Yeah. It's just,
right.
It's
well,
not,
yeah.
There's also a bicycle wheel in there.
There you go. See, that's exactly what I said. So the production. I mean, you can go in and today, especially with the quarantining that's going on in the world, a lot of artists are recording at home, maybe an acoustic guitar or a keyboard, and that's about it. If they're not overlaying other instruments in a production. But a good production like this, an imaginative production, and people who are producing and playing on a song where all of the imaginations are coming together, it elevates the song to a different level. And that's basically what you've done here. Now, you didn't work in the studio with Eric, right? Was that distance? That was the distance thing, right? Or did you?
The distance is the whole concept kind of that song.
Right.
Well, no, we didn't work together in the studio, but we did everything just over the internet. Like we're doing it right now. We had Zoom calls and we talk about our ideas, and then everyone, like each of us would work on the stuff when it's on their own, and then we'd get together again and discuss what we had. And it was definitely a 50-50 collaborative effort. This whole track, I could not say where the lines was. It was complete, like everything about the lyrics, the arrangement, even production, mixing, everything was done half. And that I think I've never done that before. And it was another mind-blowing experience and I was just a pretty new fan of Eric's music. I haven't heard of his music before this year, actually. So it was my first weeks in this whole lockdown, where he would do these home confinement shows. I don't know if you've come across them, but
no, I haven't seen them.
So he's done like a live show each week, or kind of live show for people to watch on YouTube. And I kind of stumbled across that or over that, and I thought, like, whoa, okay, what he's doing, I need to write with that guy. I want to get to know this guy. I love what he's doing. And yeah, we just clicked, and it just worked out perfectly well. And it was so inspiring to have all these sampling ideas in there to, you know, put bird sounds and the bicycle sounds in there. That was such a playful and yeah, inspiring approach that has, yeah, I've never done that before, and I loved it.
Well, now, what was the difference, or maybe there wasn't a difference, but working with a guy like Blue and then working with a guy like Eric Barreau, is there a difference there? Do you have to adjust some of the way that you work, or was it basically the same thing?
So from their talents, definitely the same things. But
Okay.
I think it's different with every collaborator. It's a different vibe, a different connection. But it was just as magical, if not more.
If not more, okay. Well, it's great. Eric's terrific, and I'm glad you got to work with him. Boy, I'll tell you,
Yeah.
you've got some stuff on this EP. It's pretty good, pretty good. The other song that I wanted to talk about was Brighton Beach.
Oh.
Now,
Okay.
the reason this is because it's different. First of all, it's all you from top to bottom. You play the instruments, you sing, you wrote it, you mixed it. I mean, I don't know what else you did, but you did everything. And it's an interesting song. It's about distance. A lot of things are about distance. And you're singing about somebody, you know, make up your mind. What is it you want to do? How do you want to feel about this? And then I'll adjust the way I feel about it. It's kind of a conversation of sorts.
Interesting.
And I thought it was very affecting, and it's a terrific performance. It's pretty. And like a lot of great pop music, you know, the lyrics tell kind of a different story, kind of a melancholy type of story. And this song is like, I could imagine it on Broadway. You know, it sounds like a play, like a song you would sing to the audience. Tell me about writing that song, and is it based upon is there the Brighton Beach that's in Brooklyn in New York, or is it a Brighton Beach that's in Austria, or did you just make up the name, or what was it?
It's definitely a real Brighton Beach, not the one over there.
Okay.
It's so funny what people hear in that song, because there is it's basically I put a real conversation like that actually happened into music. So I didn't make it up. It's something that happened, and I think I wrote the song in about an hour or so. It just came out because it was already written. I had like a protocol of that sounds crazy, but I had a protocol of that conversation that didn't go well, apparently, for me. But sometimes those dark, sad moments make good stuff for music, and I just felt the urge to write about that, and it was all there. I didn't make anything up. It just, the music was just coming along kind of with the lines, and they just made sense in their own yeah, like they happened in real life. And I don't know, I felt a little, I was intimidated about releasing the song, like for the public kind of to hear, because you know, when you write about something that happened, there's another person involved, and they might hear it and be like, "Oh, it's not about me," you know. But I thought, why not? You know?
Well, I don't know whether if there's a way to say this in Austria, but here, you know, they say to writers, write what you know, and that always works out best. Of course, you know, there are some people who don't really write what they know; they make stories up, but it's all based on some sort of a truth that a person has deep. Maybe it's deep inside, maybe it's not so deep. But when you're writing from experience, and you're writing from something that really happened, that meant something to you either way, is it more difficult to write a song like that, or is it easier to be in the mix writing a song like Time Machine?
I enjoy both, to be honest. It's completely different, and at least for me, the musical results sound different too. I like both, and I need to have both kind of in my creative box that I work on. Just like with Brighton Beach, when I write personal songs, or like you said, stories that have affected me or are in that present moment when I write and do affect me, they're usually more like stripped down, guitar, vocal, like that's how they come about. But I also love going into the studio and picking up a sound or an instrument and letting me let this part of the music guide me towards a story. And that usually that's the other way around. Then I would start with the music and create the lyrics or the story afterwards, so that would come through the music. Like with Time Machine, the music was there, the story kind of was told by the sounds. And yeah, so with the super personal sounds, it's usually the other way around. Like you start with lyrics and then
Okay.
just trying to sing them how they come naturally. Yeah.
Well,
I like
think about this. The way that I see the EP going is it starts off big. You know, it's huge. Time Machine. It should be in surround sound. You know, it's massive. It envelopes you. It engulfs you. And as you continue on through the EP, not the production, but the feeling of the songs gets more compacted until at the end of the thing, you know, it sort of goes like this as far as the oral impression of the songs. And so it starts off really huge with Time Machine, and it ends up very compacted with Brighton Beach. I don't know if you intended it that way, but that's the way it felt to me. It was like, you know, it was like if it was a play and there were 30 people on stage, at the end, it's just the star, you know, singing the ballad. And that's the one everybody gets up and, you know, they're clapping, they're applauding. Did you intend for the feelings to be like that or is it just the way it worked out, just when you sequenced it?
I think you said it so beautifully. Well, thank you for hearing it like that. I don't know, just when I put the track order together and when I decided on the songs, I just wanted to have, I don't know, like a good energy curve of having, like I said, like the big and you know, bombastic songs, and then some more relaxed, poppy, more ballady songs mixed in between. So I don't know, it was just the track order that felt natural. But yes, I kind of wanted to have that little spot for new listeners who discover my music to see, okay, that's her, like that's just her at the end, like, okay, with all these people stepping aside, and that's what's left. You know, that's just what she brings to the table, and for better or worse.
This is it, folks. So. This is it. See ya. Bye now. Right. Well, that's the way. The more I listen to it, that's the way I heard it. Now that it's completed, you finished it, you did all the work. Right? Woo.
Still a lot of work.
It's done.
It doesn't stop.
Right. Well, right. I mean, now that it's released, now you have to promote it. So it's like, you know, but you finished the recording, you've done the music. So looking back on it, is there anything about any of it, the writing, the producing, the playing, the singing, that you said, boy, if I could go back and fix that thing, boy, I would do that in a second? Any of those feelings? No. everything, right?
Yeah, maybe I would have put more studio days in LA into it. Like I would have booked not just, you know, a couple days, but a whole month to work on it. That's what I would have done differently. But with, you know, it's always a financial question too, especially as a starting artist, independent artist. It's not like you can book out a studio for, you know, a month. Even though I would love that, but so that's what I would change, but nothing about the experience of the music. There's definitely no.
Good. Well, good. That's good. So obviously, I mean, I would say it's pretty obvious. You can't wait to start the next EP or album or what. Like, you know, can I start now? And you love collaboration. So who else are you looking at to work with? You know, they may hear it first on here. Hey, she wants to work with me. That's great. How do I get in touch with her? But who else would you like to work with for the next release?
I'm thinking about 4 people in particular that I I'm having like dream collaborators, like they're on my list pretty much on top, and that's also like a thought behind that whole putting together a whole EP and not just releasing a couple singles, was to have like a business card or like a portfolio for me to go to people like that and say like, hey, see, that's what I've done so far, like I want to work on that with those people, for example. And people like Mike Viola come to mind, John Fields.
John Strawberry Fields, okay. All right.
Huge fan. Dan Wilson, Semisonic is definitely on that list. I would love to write with him. There's one writer that may not be very well known because he's mostly writing for Nickelodeon teenage shows. So he's writing all the music for that and theme songs for shows like that I've grown up with. And he's worked with Drake Bell. So I kind of discovered him through Drake Bell's music and the Nickelodeon shows. His name is Michael Corcoran. He goes by the name Backhouse Mike.
Okay.
So, he's just, there's a couple of songs on YouTube that are not officially uploaded. So it's just like a little, I don't know, leaked songs or something that he's done, that he sang himself, and he is the artist on these tracks. And there's not a lot of music out there that tops that for me. So it just speaks to me in a very, very special way. So he is like my, absolute dream collaborator, producer. And I don't know, maybe.
Well, however you go about it for your next release, whatever it is, I think people are going to be very excited to hear what you come up with next, because there's a lot of variety on this album. And as I say, I don't know whether anybody else is going to see it the same way, but, to me, you show different colors of your imagination and your musical ability by starting out huge, humongous, 90,000 people on the first track. And then it goes down to a very personal story at the end. And I think that's good. It's interesting. It keeps the listener interested. I think.
Thank you for saying that. I really appreciate all these nice words. Thank you. And there's so much credit due to my collaborators, especially on the big productions. Like they all blow my mind with their imagination. So it's definitely not me. it's what they bring to the table.
Well, you're in there too, right? I mean, it says Dear Stella on the EP, right? So it's you too. Wow. You're the artist. Well, so now that we've talked about this, and as I said, the songs that we talked about are underneath the interview. I see people doing that on YouTube all the time. Click on the link. And they go like this, right? They're like, and then you're looking and it's not there. You're like, what? I don't know, but it actually will. They actually will be there. So there. Yeah. That's the way we work here. So you can get this all over the place on your Bandcamp page, Dear Stella Bandcamp page, and I think I saw it like on Apple Music and a couple other places. So the usual suspects. Get it. You're gonna anywhere you get it. If you download it, or you get the CD, get the EP. That's what I like. I like the physical product. This is that's it. And then there she is on the back with all sorts of information, stuff about the songs and who was on them and everything. Mm-hmm. But any way you get it, it's going to be great. I think you're going to love it. It's one of the best releases of the year. Other people are going to say that, Stefanie. I'm telling you, and it's the truth. It really is that good. It really is that good. So I wanted to thank you for being here today. It was delightful to speak with you.
Thank you.
It really was.
I had a blast, as you can tell.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I like it when people enjoy the interview. But seriously, you're a great talent. You're just starting out. So, who knows where you can go from here, but it's going to be a long career, I bet. Wow. And everybody will be watching to see what you do next. So Stefanie Drexler, I didn't pronounce it the way she would pronounce her name, but it's close.
Yeah.
I didn't do too bad.
It sounds cool. The way you say it is much cooler.
Okay, well, I practiced, so I'm all set. And it's Dear Stella. And where is it? In typical, video fashion on the internet, backwards, time zones, right there. And I think you're going to love it. So Stefanie, thank you for being here today, and good luck on everything you do in the future.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ellen, so much. That was a huge pleasure for me and an honor. And yeah, thank you for being so nice and welcoming.
You're welcome.